G'day, Professor Joseph Drew. This video is incredibly important for anyone that pays rates in Australia, for all councils, for all ministers, for all regulators, because people are really confused about the type of tax that local governments have, a land tax, and how it relates to individual capacity to pay. Watch this video all the way through and you'll understand the source of the confusion. So in Australia, we have land-based tax for local government. We call it rates, we shouldn't. It's a tax like any other tax. It's not a fee for service, and it's not fair because no tax is fair. But it's probably the best out of a very bad bunch that we have in this nation. Now, the idea for an unimproved land tax, which is the best type of land tax, and I've got other videos on the difference between unimproved and capital improved, the idea for that goes back to at least Henry George, 1896, a book called Progress and Poverty. Now, the idea here is if you buy a block of land and you do absolutely nothing to it, the chances are it's going to go up in value. Why does it go up in value? Immigration, new industries, new roads, government policies, births, all sorts of things. You can't help but make money. That's why people are piling into property in Australia. Now, Henry George's question is, why should you get to keep all the wealth that you did absolutely nothing to earn? Particularly so, given that government earns some of that wealth for you by doing things like roads and other government policies. So his idea is to have an unimproved land tax that only taxes the value of the land, not anything you actually did like building a building or landscaping or anything else like that. To have an unimproved land tax, which would mean that you would return a tiny fraction of the wealth that you did nothing to earn back to the community, and they would then use that money to earn you even more wealth. It's the most moral tax in this country, by far. And to make this point clear, have a think about our other taxes. Income tax or corporate taxes if you're a business. The harder you work, the more tax you pay. It just discourages people from working hard. That's why we've got this productivity crisis in Australia and most of the Western world. That's why people aren't investing in their human capital or investing in their business, because a lot of that investment is going to go straight to the government. It's a disincentive. It's a very bad kind of tax if you want a productive, wealthy nation. Think about some other taxes, because these are important with respect to capacity to pay in particular, which I talk about in the next couple of slides. So excise duty, fuel excise duties, cut and paste from the ATO website. Apparently, we're paying 49.6 cents per litre. Now, the government doesn't care whether you're driving a $2,000 bomb and you can't afford to feed your children or not, or whether you're driving a Rolls Royce. You're all paying 49.6 cents per litre according to this ATO website. It doesn't discriminate about your individual circumstances. And in fact, it does in one sense, because if you're wealthy enough to buy a Tesla or one of those hybrid cars, you're not buying fuel, which means you're not paying the same tax as other people are paying. So that's far worse than local government taxes. Another example, 10% GST. Whether you're a beggar, my heart goes out to these people, and you finally scrape enough money together to buy a bun to eat, or if you're a billionaire, you're paying the same 10% GST when you buy most items in Australia. There's some exempt, but most items attract GST. It doesn't care whether you're homeless or you're a billionaire or you're the Prime Minister or the Governor General or whatever. We're all paying the same GST. Another example, alcohol rates for beer. Issue dear to my heart. Apparently, according to this screenshot from the ATO website, we're paying $51.63 per litre of alcohol. And they don't care whether you're struggling to feed your family or if you're, living it up in the high life. Either way, you're paying the same tax. And most taxes are like that for very good reasons. So most taxes aren't moral, nor are they efficient, nor do most taxes care about your individual circumstances as we just described. Now, local government land taxes have a strong moral foundation. That's what sets them apart from most other taxes. But they're only partly responsive to your particular individual capacity to pay. Now, local governments by law have to have hardship policies to help you if you don't have capacity to pay. Unlike what we have for the GST and the fuel tax and all those sorts of things. Local governments by law have to give pensioner discounts, unlike the GST or the massive fuel tax we're paying or most other taxes. So we do a fair bit in local government to mitigate for your individual capacity to pay, but as I'll show you in the next slide, it's not possible to mitigate that completely. But we certainly do a lot more in the local government tax sphere than what we do with the GST, the fuel excise, the beer tax. I could go on forever. Now, of course, if you're having a land-based tax, which is the only tax with a really, really strong moral foundation, you couldn't tailor it to the particular incomes of people. Now, if you're using your land for business purposes and you're using it in the most efficient and effective way possible, your land value will have something to do with your income, but not always as close as what people think. But if you're a residential person, your land value probably has nothing to do with your income. Now, if we started tailoring it to every individual circumstances, we wouldn't have a land tax anymore. Remember, the idea is to get back some of that unearned wealth. So if we tailored your land tax to your income, and you had a very low income, and your neighbor sitting on land exactly the same value had a very high income, you would be paying different taxes, land taxes, rates. But what would it mean for the moral foundation? It would mean that one person was getting to keep an awful lot more of their unearned wealth than another person. How is that moral? Why should one person be able to keep more money they did nothing to earn than another person? So we can't ever tailor a local government rate to individual capacity to pay. And if we did it, we would lose the whole moral foundation, which is why local government taxes are so much better than the really bad bunch that we mostly have in this country. As I say, there's an awful lot of confusion. I'd love a lot of our ministers and premiers and prime ministers and things to be watching this video, regulators, council executive, ratepayers, and that's what they're all about. If you want to pop it up on a website, send it to someone else, do so. It's my personal intellectual property. You can do what you like about it. I'm just trying to help people by giving them good information so they can make better decisions and understand what's going on. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.